it wasn't that long ago when we were still shooting with film. You know, digital cameras really the last 25 years have just taken off really, really quick. And they've kind of peaked in some regards. But the one aspect of cameras and photography today that we did not have during the days of film is that these cameras could do both video and still photography. And so the demand has kind of changed a little bit. You know, people are expecting more out of what a photographer could do. Now, some photographers don't do video. Some video people don't do photography, and that's perfectly fine. And sometimes when they come across people who can actually do both, some people try to take advantage of that. And it's really not their fault. You can't blame them for doing that. But I'm here to just try to discourage people from falling victim to giving away services that you would normally charge if someone were to hire you to do it separately. Now, should you get a discount maybe if you do both? Absolutely. Definitely consider something like that. But to downplay it and to disregard that you actually still have to do the same amount of work, that is something I encourage everybody who does any type of the arts don't do. Because whether you're painting something or you're taking pictures or if you're actually going to be shooting some video or capturing some audio, your expertise and your experience and also your expense has gone into that. And you really shouldn't actually dismiss that just because you can do multiple things. When I go shoot a wedding or if I do senior pictures or if I go to a commercial shoot, anything like that, I take the equipment necessary to get the job done. Okay? And today, thankfully, you know, for the content creator, so to speak, or the photographer, we're able to do a lot of those things with a single device. If I go shoot senior pictures, if I go shoot a commercial video, or if I shoot a wedding, I normally have a camera kind of like this. And this is a Canon R5. I do have the vertical grip on it. I have a 28-70 f2 lens on there from Canon. I have, you know, a handle for the side from SmallRig, and I also have a handle on top. Now, if I'm going to be shooting anything where I don't have to use some strobe lights or any type of triggering, I normally won't have the handle on here because I need to use the hot shoe in a lot of those situations. But if I really wanted to, I could always plug those into the camera with a cable and put them onto a cold shoe and have it be controlled that way. But the less cables, usually the better off it's going to be, and a lot easier and a little bit less stress. So in a situation if I'm going to go take some pictures and I know I'm not going to use any of that stuff, I may actually have a setup kind of like this. Because if I shoot vertical, I have a handle on the side, I have this, I just like that extra grip or something like that. And also if I go landscape, I have it as well. But even more so, I'm able to shoot video pretty well. Like you can see this handle basically kind of keeps it balanced through the center like that, so I don't have to do a lot of effort to keep the camera from going to the sides. If I do this, I have to constantly make sure that I'm staying balanced because I'm using all that strength and all that muscle because the camera is very lopsided. It is very heavy on one side. So with the handle, I'm actually able to do a lot of that stuff. So I'm able to shoot video. I'm able to shoot photos of the same things. But the thing I don't like about it the most is it's basically undercutting yourself, and it's also having you compete and even put yourself out of a job. If you go do a wedding, let's say you do it for $2,000, you could do the photos and then you sneak in some video for that and they don't pay you anything extra. Well, you could have got a little bit more if somebody else were to hire you to do that video, because I'm not saying be one of those guys who nickel and dimes everything. I'm definitely not that guy, but I'm also a realist and I understand how much time goes into creating video as well as editing photos, and not to mention the expense that goes into it as well. You have to have a lot more storage for video. If I were to shoot the highest bit rate possible with this camera, you know, like 1 terabyte gets used up in just 40 minutes of footage. You go shoot a wedding, you could have anywhere between 40 minutes and maybe 2 hours, maybe even more than that, depending on kind of how loose you shoot. And you could be looking at, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 terabytes worth of storage necessary for one project. And until that project is finished and you're absolutely sure you never want to use that footage again, then you're going to have to hold on to that storage. And if you go do another wedding the next weekend, the next weekend, you're looking at a lot of storage. And so that is something that ultimately needs to be considered when you do shoot some type of services at a premium, and that is offering high quality video and photos. Don't discount and don't discredit how much space photos take up. You also want to be able to back up those photos for ease of mind. You don't really get to reshoot a wedding You don't really get to reshoot a lot of other things, especially if you're like a photojournalist or something like that, or if there's a one-time event, you don't get to go back and shoot that again. So you really want to have that stuff backed up on multiple drives, even if you know you're going to work on it immediately, because hard drives fail. You know, that's just fact. Solid state drives, they will fail. Everything will fail. So the best thing you can possibly do is have it on multiple drives in multiple locations, whether that be you put it into the cloud, or if you actually have it on a second drive or a third drive, or have a NAS device with RAID. There's a lot of different things you can get into there, and I'll be more happy to explain what my setup is, and also give you advice on how to do that stuff, coming from a lot of experience doing IT throughout my career. But so that's kind of my advice on it. Another thing about video that photography doesn't have to really worry about as much is what our shutter angle is, and what our frame rate and how our shutter speed somehow, they correlate and they work together. With photos, a lot of times we really just want to stop the action. So it doesn't matter how fast we shoot. We just want to kind of get that shot we're going for. In video, you pretty much have to follow some pretty standard rules to make the video look really good. Because those times where you actually have the shutter really fast and you're shooting in a relatively slow frame rate, you're going to have that choppiness. You're going to see things literally, if you go frame by frame, you'll see things all of a sudden jump everywhere. And that's where it's very important with what we do with the shutter angle. And on these cameras, they're great if you're indoors, but once you go outside and you start having some of that sunlight, you have to then start considering things like neutral density filters. You could always, change the aperture, but then you're going to have everything in focus. There's just too many things you could possibly ruin with video that you really won't necessarily have to worry about with photos. Because even in photos, let's say you screw that up, you shoot it incorrectly. There's so many things you could do in post as far as blurring things out, separating them from the background, things like that. If you really wanted to, in video, you really don't have that same freedom. So take all this what you will. Keep that in mind. It's not, if you ask a video photo person if they'll do both and they say no, just, maybe take some of the stuff and consider it, and realize there's a lot more to it than just simply pressing a button. Even though technically I can just press a button and I can jump between photo and video, well, my camera won't be necessarily set up to get the best quality of video, including not having some of the audio on there necessary to really get some quality sound. So thank you very much for watching. I hope this information is a little bit helpful. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to throw them in the comments, and I'll be more happy to try to answer them. Thank you.